Alright, I believe we are now live. How do I have viewers on here? I'm so confused. Well, this is the fourth Wilhelmia's Van Diaper show. Hello, everybody. I don't know how you hopped on. Well, actually, no, I guess you can see the live chat as it's preparing. Never mind then. I was confused for a minute. There's a bunch of people here. Alright, give me a second for the stream to warm up, get everything going, and we'll get into our topic. Alright, what's up? We got some people here. Oh, my internet is not working very well. Based, definitely based. It's not a Wilhelmia's Van Diaper live stream if it's not based and the internet doesn't go out. Why aren't you working? Alright, we'll wait for a quick response from the chat. Seems like everything is going just fine. We'll pop this link over here and we'll get started. Alright, so tonight we will be talking about a proprietary definition of conservatism. And this is an idea I thought about a lot because in modern day discourse, we always think of conservatives, or at least most of us will think of conservatives, as effectively liberals from the 90s. They're not really conserving much, and they're reactionaries. They don't have a positive ideology. No, I'm not going to stop making my voice deeper. You have a very important question, ask away. I can't sing right now, I have a cold. I did talk about this in Discord. I realized I had an article that I wrote about it, so I brought that back up. Much more well written than anything I did before. It's in the description of this video as well if you want to subscribe to my Substack and read it. But we'll be going through part of it in a moment. Yeah, the contemporary definition is positive in that it positively asserts positions. Or not the contemporary definition. So the contemporary current definition of conservative is a negative definition. It says conservatives don't like this or they don't like that. I mean, I guess you can pray the rosary for me. I'd prefer you not. I think it's kind of idolatry, but what's the Luxembourgish Reformed Episcopalian view on fascists? We don't like them because they're socialists. We don't like no communists here. And I'm going to get some autist in my live stream comments going, they weren't socialists. Yeah, conserving tradition is an independent idea. It's not specifically conservative. But, yeah, so the contemporary definition of conservative is effectively a reactionary who just likes how it was when they were a little kid or when their parents grew up. And they just don't like this thing. And that's the definition of a conservative that most people operate off of today. Most so-called, most conservatives or right-wingers who disavow conservatism just have an improper definition of it, and I don't blame them. Contemporary conservatism is largely bunk and not really anything. It's nothing positive or real. Very funny, very funny. So we need to get into what is the roots of conservatism. Now, conservative ideas have arguably existed since Socrates, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But as they appear in the modern form, post-Reformation, post-Enlightenment, we're going to see these ideas come from the likes of Edmund Burke and Joseph de Maistre. And where am I getting this information? Aaron McIntyre, he's smarter than me. Should I trust him? Should I say this without double-checking my research? Maybe not, but you're just going to have to trust me on this. So, now, when it comes down to the traditional conservative definition, and what I believe is the traditional definition that I myself have come up with to more or less approximate what an actual conservative is, it has 5 fundamental points. So the number 1 point is where we can actually have some common ground with atheists in conservatism and those of other religions. And that's going to be the belief in natural law, which will flow into the next point. But let's get into natural law. So natural law is the idea that there is some type of created natural order that orders things, that things are ordered around, that has, and it's moral, and it's just, and it's real. And these laws are transcendent beyond the government. They don't just exist because of the government. And they are objective. They don't change. There's an unchanging, eternal moral standard affecting the entirety of reality. And this is a fundamental point of conservatism. If you do not have this, what are you conserving? If you are not conserving something objective, something real, something definable, you're not conserving anything at all. Excuse me, I still have a cough. The next is going to be the love of your nation and people before the love of others. We're going to find this in On Christian Doctrine by Augustine, Book 1, Chapter 27 and 28. So the quote goes like this: "Living a just and holy life requires one to be capable of an objective and impartial evaluation of things, to love things, that is, in the right order, or the order amores, so that you do not love what is not to be loved, or fail to love what is to be loved, or have a greater love for what should be loved less, or an equal love for things that should be loved less or more, or a lesser or greater love for things that should be loved equally. We must not confuse our love with our neighbor for the love with a random guy in Taiwan. We cannot do this. We can love those people, but when it comes to our actions, they must be oriented first to those around us, to those who we can help, to our actual neighbors. Which is not to say that our foreign neighbors and those who are far off are not neighbors in an extended manner, but rather to say that we must take care of our people first. Many people will dislike this principle, and they'll point to the story. They'll point to the story of the Good Samaritan, and they say, look, the Good Samaritan was helping somebody who was ostensibly not his neighbor. He didn't live near him. And, I mean, he was barely even around. He might have passed by him, taken a different road. He wasn't close at all. But the problem that they neglect, the thing that they don't realize about that story, is the problem was his actual neighbors were rejecting him. They were neglecting him. They were not helping. They were the worst sinners. And the Good Samaritan wasn't sending money to some foreign country. He was helping someone right in front of him. Who is your neighbor? Everyone around you is your neighbor. Those who are close to you are your neighbor in a real physical sense, and everyone is your neighbor in a spiritual sense. And we must prioritize them in a certain order to be cognizant, to have actual anything really, to have actual intelligence, to have actual thought and action. We must prioritize that which is next to us, physically in space. We cannot transcend the bounds of space to help our neighbors in Uzbekistan over our neighbors in our own neighborhood. And this is a fundamental problem that we will see in the likes of conservatives, who often will split off from their own denomination because it's getting a little too liberal, and then they'll send missionaries down to the middle of Africa. But the problem is, you could save a lot of money and send somebody down the street. You have a church there full of boomers who need to hear the gospel. There's no reason you can't preach the gospel in that church. You're choosing not to. What you're doing is disordering your loves to love those who are not your neighbors first. This is wrong. It is not conservative. Next is going to be a rejection of unrighteous revolutions. And I'm going to give a quick standard for what revolutions are righteous. Now, generally, we shouldn't have revolts ever. We are supposed to submit to authority. This is part of the most based Christian rock song of all time. But how would we know which revolutions are righteous or unrighteous? If two equally validly ordained authorities are fighting each other, you have the right to pick a side. When the continental government is fighting the British government in the American Revolution, they have a right to pick a side. When the French Revolution and the French were fighting themselves, there was no right there. That was the people versus an unjust government. We should stop the unjust government, but we should not revolt like that, and look at the results. And the next, as I stated before, it's going to be a rooting in the political philosophies of Edmund Burke and Joseph de Maistre. I would suggest that you look into them. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm also going to add here, since we talked about natural law a little bit, and I was on that for a little bit, I did forget actually to put in this list philosophical realism. The West is said to be built on Jerusalem and Athens. Now, apparently this phrase has been changed a little bit, and they didn't put Jerusalem in there, but I don't know. I don't really care about the origins. There is a fundamental. I keep saying that word, fundamental. I need to stop with that. Conservatism is built on the idea that there are real ideals that actually exist in time. And we must live up to those ideals. Those ideals are real. And the only way you get that is from some type of Greek philosophical realist position. Now, the most fundamental conservative statement is Christ is King. This is a statement that has been controversial lately, and I'm going to tell you this. If you see someone like Trent Horn telling you, maybe we shouldn't be saying Christ is King, or another channel, Bob the Baptist, who I saw, who said maybe there's contexts in which we shouldn't be saying Christ is King, they are wrong. And I am going to demonstrate this with the scriptures. So if we go to Matthew 18, or Matthew 28, 18 through 20, I'm reading out of the KJV here. And Christ came to them, and spake unto them, saying, All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Go therefore, and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Amen. So we see Christ has all power and all authority in heaven and in earth, and this is before he ascends to the right hand of the Father to rule. He will be with us always. Christ is King now and forever and for all eternity. We also see in John 18:37, I'm reading out of the NKJV for clarity, Pilate therefore said to him, Are you a king then? Jesus answered, You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Every one who is of the truth hears my voice. Every righteous government recognizes that Christ is king. In a democracy, you don't necessarily need the federal government or the state government to do this, because a democracy is allegedly run by the people. Practically speaking, this isn't true at all, but allegedly it is run by the people. And if the people recognize Christ as king, they have done something correct. They are doing well. And so this is what I would propose as a conservative. A conservative is one who believes in real ideals and truth that are accessible to all people through natural revelation, things like natural law and truth, accessible through all time. We can look back at old ideas and say they are true. Old people are not dumb. They also rightly order their love for their people and their country before others. And this is an American principle. If you read George Washington's farewell speech, he's very clear on the types of relationships we're supposed to be having with foreign nations. And I will tell you this, it does not line up with what we have today. And maybe that's something we'll have to read through on stream at some point. And we see here that this does not line up with what a vast majority of us find to be conservatism today. It just strictly doesn't. I know very few people who actually meet all of these qualifications. Alright, let's take a look at the chat. Christ is King, yes, very base. We all love Jesus. Sounds like liberal natural theology. Natural theology gets a little liberal. Traditional natural theology is not. I mean, the West was built on Rome, but Rome was built on Greece. And Rome became great under Christianity. Kid Furry, no, you cannot have a kiss. No. Alright, we're going to open it up to 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A. I think I presented my ideas well enough. Hey, we have 9 concurrent viewers. It's a great start. Jesuit skepticism. Real. Hello, Reformed Catholic. How are you? We're on to the Q&A section of the stream now. We're going to go for maybe 5 minutes max. I don't think we'll stay for too long. It's getting kind of late. Even though I do enjoy streaming until midnight, I don't have much more to talk about. That's all I have prepared. I mean, yeah, the phrase Christ is King can be used wrongly, but so can any true statement. The phrase 2 plus 2 is 4 can be used wrongly. And so, obviously there are situations in which people go and they say it in a hateful manner. 99% of the time, that's not happening. That's just not happening. Almost everyone who proclaims Christ as king really means it, and it's true. Yeah, I feel you, Jesus and orange juice. I too would have a far easier life if I could be Lutheran, but I don't know. I can't really get behind what they believe on predestination. It's just it doesn't work. But I would recommend that you read the Augsburg Confession, and you go through what it says on predestination in the church. It's I've been going through it lately. It's very good. It's something you should definitely read. All right. Any other questions now? Otherwise, I might cut off the stream a little early. I want to get to about 20 minutes here. I don't know about transubstantiation. It's philosophically weak because, it's annihilating the nature of the bread to replace it with Christ's nature. It's a little bit odd, and it's just clearly not what the church has historically taught. It's always taught some type of real presence, but it's really not clear if they taught transubstantiation. But yeah. Am I struggling against the intuito fide concept? Kid Fairy, you're gonna have to define that for me. I don't know what that is. Well, it's true that you find transubstantiation and double predestination in the Catholic Church, but you also find that in the Anglican Church. So, I don't know. You can find that there, and you won't have to deal with the papacy. Do you have Riz? No, you don't. Not if you like my channel. Well, I mean, the Catholic Church believes in transubstantiation. Consubstantiation is what the Lutheran Church teaches, but they don't really call it that. I refuse to watch Joe Heschmeyer. He's a worthless apologist. He's dumb. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. It's true. He's not good. He quote mines all the time. He strawmans Gavin Ortland, and he's just annoying. He's lawyerish. He's infuriating to deal with. And he lies all the time. Strawmans all the time. He got mad at Gavin Ortland for not steelmanning his strawman. Who does that? Who thinks that's okay? Type 1 in the chat if you think that you can get mad at somebody for not steelmanning you when they strawman you. Hey, Roman Catholic Sigma, what's up? Just finishing up the live stream. We got 2 or 3 minutes left here. We're going to end it up. Yeah, I don't know if we had as big of a loss as we thought, but it is true that Republicans are at a low point right now. We don't have the best publicity, but there's also the culture is changing. So, in one point you can see, oh, Trump has very low approval ratings. Republicans do not have much political momentum at the moment. They should have political momentum. They have the majority of the votes and everything. And the majority of seats in the House and Senate. They have the presidency. They should have all this momentum, but they don't. And there's something lost. And I think Trump just needs to take his power and use it effectively as a political leader. But you also see on the other end of the coin that people like Nick Fuentes, who at least according to my proprietary definition is a conservative, he's, a little bit gross sometimes, I will say. And I don't want to talk about racism on the stream, but I don't really care about accusations of racism that much. They're also fake. But you see people like him, he's massively mainstream, even among former liberals. So we are going to see a shift, and by the 2024 election, we'll recover. Yeah, some people say the Lutheran view is Arminian. Some people say it's basically Calvinist without irresistible grace and limited atonement. I don't know. The problem with the Lutheran view is it's so unclear that it collapses into other views. What's the Luxembourgish Reformed Episcopalian view on Johannes Adolf Schnitzelmacher, Ligachungus, Billy Bob, and Brace Crusader 69? So, Schnitzelmacher is in the only other true church, because remember, there's one true churches, alright, and Schnitzelmacher is in the other one. Wells is the second one, and the PCUSA, or Luxembourgish Reformed Episcopalian Church, is the first one. Bigot Chungus is a heretic. He's burning in hell. Billy Bob is just weird. He will never die. He'll be raptured. And Base Crusader 69 hasn't. He's not really appreciated in our tradition. Yeah, the American Republican Party is quite brutal, and it doesn't meet the definition of conservative that I laid out today. If it did, it would be majority anti-gay, and that's just not the case, because natural law tells us that homosexuality is wrong. Yeah, Mamdani has Netanyahu arrested. Trump should arrest Mamdani. Trump should arrest Mamdani for policies that literally target people for being white and tax them extra money. Mamdani is obviously breaking the law, and I don't see any reason why. Here's the thing. If we're not going to allow people to form a militia against Mamdani, which I'm not advocating for, I don't think we should do that. We shouldn't violently overthrow our government, but there needs to be some type of civil disobedience, and if that doesn't work, Trump has to just step in and get rid of him because he's obviously a criminal. I mean the 2026 election, Gravemind, that's my bad. Yeah, 2026 and 2028. There should be a Sigma party. Yeah. Yeah, gay marriage, quote unquote. Yeah, well, it's not true. It's not universally accepted amongst actual conservatives by the definition that I gave. It is accepted amongst most vaguely conservative modern Republicans, and that is a problem. What's happening here? We're talking about random politics and stuff right after I gave a proprietary definition of conservative. So, you might want to go back and watch the stream. We're finishing up another 2 to 3 minutes. I don't know what that is. What that is. Why would I redefine conservatism? I didn't redefine conservatism. So what I did was I attempted to clarify back to its original meaning, but it is a proprietary definition. I didn't get it from another guy. So what I did was I looked back at older sources and beliefs, and I tried to look at old ideas. I mean, I'm appealing to Augustine and the scriptures, and I'm appealing to modern figures, relatively early modern figures, still pre-revolution, just after the American Revolution, like Edmund Burke and Joseph the Meister, who are largely recognized as the founder of modern political conservatism, in which is the counter to the radical revolutionaryism of the French Revolution, which is why you cannot be a Jesuit and conservative, because the Jesuits caused the French Revolution with their Jesuit skepticism. So, yeah, well, no, conservatism, yeah, is vaguely lost, but that's because the right wing isn't actually the right wing. It's yeah, Christian nationalism aligns with traditional conservatism. So yeah, Christian nationalism itself would align with my proprietary definition of conservatism. If you're not a Christian nationalist, you aren't actually a conservative. Will I host an RZ brain rot party? Possibly. What denomination am I? I'm Luxembourgish Reformed Episcopalian. How much grass do I touch? I want to mow grass for a living, so probably like 4 or 5 blades. Yeah, Christian nationalism is just a better clarification of the conservative label, but it doesn't go off as well with many people. But it is true, and that Christian nationalism both says Christian theology and philosophy, and the nationalism, which would be the ideal that we talked about with Augustine of loving your neighbors first. So it is actually probably more accurate than conservatism. It's only really missing one aspect of conservatism and the universality of truth, both now and in the past. Even though that would be covered under Christian philosophy and theology, but you have to lump those two things together, and it gets a little fuzzy there. Last time I went to the dentist, I don't remember. What should you study in university? Probably history or political philosophy. Most people shouldn't study theology, in my opinion. Even though I am actually going after I'm going to major for a couple of years in history and political philosophy, and then I'm going to go get a theology degree. But most people probably shouldn't. Would I rather become Roman Catholic or get a low taper fade with RZ ceiling fan? Obviously a low taper fade with the RZ ceiling fan. autism beef? Yeah. Most awkward moment in my life? I'm not telling you that. It was not good. I'm trying to think back. I'm such an awkward person in general. I don't know. You almost went to a Jesuit school? Oh my goodness. They were going to brainwash you and make you a Jesuit spy. Start another French Revolution. Second most awkward time? That's arguably harder to pick. I have to pick a first one then. No, it actually wasn't Gravemind. It was not. That wasn't really embarrassing at all. Most basic definition of Christian nationalism I can give is that you must have an objective, rooted basis for the moralities of which your laws are based on. That being Christianity, Christians are allowed to publicly practice their religion even within the law because it is true. Yeah. So I would say look to figures like Andrew Wilson did a good modern day debate surrounded thing where he had five guys attacking him on Christian nationalism. That's good. He also had a debate getting grilled on Christian nationalism a couple months ago. That was good. Doug Wilson's pretty good on Christian nationalism. You should look up Stephen Wolfe. He has a book, The Case for Christian Nationalism. He gives a definition there. Yeah. So that's what I would recommend. And then even actually, Redeem Zoomer is vaguely a Christian nationalist, and his video of church and state should be separate. You should watch that. That one's very good. Any news on FF4F? Well, he's just spiraling and being crazy. Well, is Van Dyke out of context. Oh, you're gonna have some wild stuff to say. That's true. Would I rather wear a papal tiara or RZ's ceiling fan as a halo? Obviously, RZ's ceiling fan as a halo. Redeemed Zoomer, more like Redeemed Pooper, banned from the channel. You're banned, never commenting again. Alright, I think we will wrap it there. Yeah, this has been a good discussion. I think I actually should have considered Christian nationalism beforehand, but and probably put that into my definition of conservative. When will I join Kingdom Craft? Never. Oh, how do we deal with FF4F? Leave him alone. Pray for him. There's not much we can say to him. We're not going to reason him his way back to Christ. You can't throw logical arguments at people and expect them to believe in God. It's ridiculous. All right. Good night. Sleep well, everybody. Am I serious about what? Banning you? Obviously. I've never said anything sarcastic in my life. What happened with FF4F? Well, you can watch my last stream. I gave an explanation, but basically, he was a YouTuber in our space and he apostatized. He's now an atheist. Alright, you're welcome. Go ahead and show up on the stream anytime. I'll answer questions. I'd love to do it. Stream is done.